hello. I am so delighted and excited to be here today, especially around one of my favorite topics, which is technology. It's a true honor to be talking and a true challenge and responsibility to be talking on behalf of diversity in tech as well. So the question is, diversity in tech, who needs it? Well, the answer to that is all of us. Why, you may ask? Well, we're in it, this is tech, right? And because it's tech, we're all in it for the money. Well, diversity is the signature to that check, and here's why. Number one, companies are losing considerable amounts of money to their bottom line when diversity is not a factor of consideration. Secondly, companies are allocating money, which means they're investing money toward PR and crisis control when diversity standards are breached and publicized, instead of putting that money into something with the true potential for return on investment, such as true diversity and inclusion initiatives. Thirdly, technology is built and fixed on the next big ideas and convenience. Marginalized groups are filled with innovation and creativity, which turns big profits for their investors. But these groups are disproportionately overlooked, and equal access to capital is immensely lacking. As mentioned before, my name is TerryP.Mitchell. I've had the pleasure and the honor of building and co-founding two wildly successful tech-based companies over the last 9 years. Incotech, as mentioned, is an enterprise software development firm made up of 9 very diverse employees with different ranges in age, race, and gender. The Socialite, on the other hand, our lifestyle brand, is made up of a team of 6 employees who are primarily women. Being a woman in tech, scratch that. Being a Black woman in tech is, at times, it feels like it's an anomaly. As the operations and marketing manager of both companies, I've been overlooked and taken for a joke more times than I can even count. When I explain to fellow tech leads who I am and what I do, the conversation is either quickly dismissed or overlooked. I often find myself having to defend my position by playing up the household names that we've been honored to work beside, such as USAA Bank, Hilton Hotels, NBC, Forbes, so on and so forth. It's only then that I seem to get the reaction and the response that I was looking for originally. I find myself constantly hiding behind emails and phone calls during initial conversations when vetting clients in order to engage potential clients with our expertise in our portfolio, instead of them knowing right off the bat that I'm a Black woman that manages this company. I've had to bring my white counterparts with me to, with me whenever vetting clients or at client meetings, just simply to get the deal done. I can't even act like having the name TerryP.Mitchell doesn't help get my foot in the door sometimes. I've been blatantly told several times in surprise, like, wow, I thought you were a man when I first read your email. These are the games that must be played by people that like me or people that look like me in order to advance in the world of tech. Sad, isn't it? It is. So despite of, what I believe has been sincere and true efforts to alleviate continued diversity and inclusion challenges, I question if we'll ever ultimately fix the problem, because the fact is, in the tech industry, it's a direct reflection of American society as it has been and as it is today. It's a direct reflection of racism, classism, and sexism. The Good Old Boys Club is alive and well in this country, and it's showing its big white male heads in the tech industry then and now. In order to find solutions, it's important to first analyze the problems set before us when discussing diversity in tech. So let's discuss some of these problems in length, and I kind of brushed over them before. For one, companies are losing money when diversity is not considered a factor. There's true data and statistics that prove that more diverse teams improves a company's bottom line by driving innovative product creation, marketing, and sales results. Instead of selling to people that only look like the majority, opening products and services to all can open your company to groups that you've never been able to reach before. Companies who launch successful diversity and inclusion initiatives show a higher return on marketing and sales efforts through diverse teams. Secondly, most companies are implanting diversity and inclusion officers into their leadership teams. And although this seems good at the surface, all too often, diversity and inclusion officers have little to do with fixing the problem of lack of diversity, and instead find themselves performing lip service and PR and crisis control for their companies on the issue. They are made to be cover-up representatives and to be the face of what diversity could look like, but they're not really and truly solving the problem. As you know, blacks and browns in the tech space have been only 2 to 3% of the overall tech industry. And that's been going on for years now. So with diversity and inclusion officers being something that has been interjected, it's surprising that numbers haven't changed or transformed much. Just to shift gears a little bit, it's important to understand why marginalized groups shy away from entering the tech industry in the first place. Marginalized groups, they don't seem to enter the industry because it was not introduced to them due to lack of resources in their educational institutions, from grade school all the way up to higher learning institutions such as trade schools, universities, and colleges. On top of that, Black people, women, and LGBTQs rarely see themselves represented in the media when the agenda of technology is being pushed. It makes it hard for us to relate and or feel invited to the table when representation of us isn't there at all. Another problem would be that people of color and women receive too little venture funding, and venture capitalists are moving at snail's pace towards fixing the insanely wide gap. Last year alone, female tech founders in general brought in just 2.2% of the overall US venture capital dollars, just 2.2%. I'm sure it doesn't help that only 10% of decision makers that sit on those as decision makers on those U.S.-based venture capital firms were women. I'm sure that doesn't help at all. Unfortunately, the stakes are even lower for Black female founders. Black women have raised less than half of 1% of all tech venture funding over the last 10 years. Aren't we all ready to rise above the constant chatter when it comes to diversity in tech, so that we can actually start creating action-packed solutions on how to fix this very loud problem? Well, the solutions to these issues are relatively simple, but take proper strategic planning and actions in order to be effective. Here's what I suggest. 1, simply show representation of marginalized groups in media and marketing campaigns. Absolutely. Make sure that your marketing teams are diverse from the start. Okay? Be sure to run these campaigns by your diversity and inclusion officers for input as well. Getting feedback from diverse teams will not only help to boost your bottom line, boost that money, companies, right? but it will also help to prevent very, very costly PR crises that can potentially leave your company looking insensitive to the public. I'm sure we've heard of a lot of companies right now that are paying big money to try to get marginalized groups back once they've made a mistake. This could have been solved from the very beginning. Number 2, diversity and inclusion officers should report directly to CEOs of companies and not just hidden behind the human resources and or legal departments of any given company. The CEO and higher executive teams will make sure to implement changes necessary to ensure long-term success for their companies. Otherwise, we're just wasting money, company dollars, and by performing lip service. Nothing is getting done. Thirdly, companies and venture capitalists should work closely with organizations who have made it their mission to teach, place, and advance marginalized groups through the technology industry. Organizations such as Black Girls Code, Blacks in Technology, Black Enterprise Magazine, Women Who Code, and Backstage Capital, to name just a few, because there's many others out there, should be seen as liaisons to create intentional diversification on venture capital funding and job placement. After all, most marginalized groups are known for spinning something out of nothing. That type of innovation and creativity can and has returned very high profits. Isn't that what we're in tech for? In conclusion, it's clear that small strides have been made to alleviate the issues of diversity in tech, but much more must be done in order to truly shake up the industry. Diversity shouldn't be seen as a PR concern or a problem, okay? It should instead be seen as a win-win for all parties involved. Making tech look more like the melting pot that America is and should be can only help companies make more money while leveling the playing field for marginalized groups at large. We can do better, and we will do better. I believe that. Thank you to Black Enterprise Magazine for entrusting and challenging me with such a responsibility of presenting on a topic such as diversity in tech. It's a true challenge, And thank you to the incredible sponsors, Dell Technology, Georgia Pacific, Koch, and IBM for helping to make this very necessary conference a reality. Remember, we're continuing the conversation at hashtag tech, TNXT, tech TNXT, right? TECH, TNXT. All right, let's open the floor for questions. Okay. Thank you.
Terry has a lab mic, and we will have this mic for your questions. So if you have any, please see the beautiful sister in the middle of the aisle. And as you all do up yours, I kind of have a first sort of leading question. Earlier you mentioned that diversity professionals tend to not necessarily be as empowered as they need to be in order to make the change that they'd like to make. What suggestions would they need in order to be as empowered as what they should be?
Well, empowerment for me looks like representation. It's really hard to go to conferences, to be sitting in meetings with people that don't look like me. So my fuel and my empowerment comes from finding groups that have like minds. Like I mentioned, there's several organizations that are making that possible. So I definitely encourage all to find those types of groups. I volunteer for the likes of Black Girls Code. I've worked with organizations like Blacks in Technology. Actually, in Austin, there's a company through the Greater Austin Black Chamber of Commerce. There is a committee called, excuse me, I went blank, but it's the Black Technology Council. That's what it's called. On Facebook in Austin as well, there's an organization, a group called the Urban Tech Movement. So the idea is to get plugged and get involved. The reality is we may be scattered, but we do exist. I mean, look at the room as it is right now. So plug yourself in, find yourself a mentor, and mentor others so that we're pulling each other up. That would be my response to empowerment. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes. Is that Miss Wingo? This is my idol, y'all. This is one of my mentors. I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you. Miss Wingo of Sanders Wingo Advertising Agency.
Well, hello. Well, now there's a lot of hype around this question that you just built up. So, the challenges that you brought up during your presentation are the same challenges that I see not only in tech but also in my area, which is communications and marketing and advertising. How do we as a group come together? And this is a completely unfair question, but since you're the presenter, I'm going to ask you. How do we as a group come together to change the system that was not created for us to succeed?
Well,
and I'd be curious to hear from the group.
Yeah,
too.
Me too. I'll start it off, but just like Ms. Wingo said, please chime in. There's little to no groups that were created in America for us to succeed in the first place. So when we know that, we accept that, we acknowledge that. What I do know about my people, both brown and black, is that we've always persevered. We're resilient, we've moved forward, and we rarely take no for an answer. There is really, I don't think there's one solution, but to push forward. Like I said, I had to get really creative on how to enter and to knock the door down for my companies. And not every, as a matter of fact, 8 out of 10 ideas that I had didn't stick. I think what has pushed us forward and what continues to push my people forward is the fact that we don't take no and that we just continue to push. I believe that the universe will give us what we want as long as we just continue and we don't quit. Jay-Z is known for saying it simply, it's not that we're genius, the difference is we didn't stop. And I do believe, that makes the difference. I don't think, honestly, that there is one set answer. You just have to continue to push and to continue to be around like-minded people that will push you forward and encourage you as best possible.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheila Hawkins Bucklew. I'm founder and CEO of Showroom 808, which is a collaborative marketplace for creative women entrepreneurs of color. And so
And I have a lot of her pieces in my closet as well, so does my mother.
Well, thank you, Terry.
Yes,
I do
absolutely.
appreciate your support. And so I have a suggestion that might help this situation based on my own experience and what we're trying to do to empower women entrepreneurs. I would say that it comes through mentorship. And one of the things that we can do, those of us who have figured out how to navigate the system, is to share it, to share, what our challenges was and how we overcame them and, how we leveled up to success, and share that with the next generation or share that with, the next, let's say, the newbie in your department. But I think coming together in that way will help alleviate the problems that a lot of companies say that they realize once they do decide to hire someone who doesn't necessarily look like everyone else. They say to me, well, Sheila, we tried it and those people don't stay. And one of the reasons they don't stay is because they're trying to figure out how to fit into that culture, right? And so if there was like at least one other person in a higher position that looked like them, then we can reach back and let them know how the game is played, right? So that's just a suggestion from me.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. One thing that has happened a lot, especially in the African American community, is we're constantly having to reinvent the wheel from scratch, right? And so I believe what Ms. Bucklew Hawkins is saying is, let's further advance ourselves. We don't have to start from, from square one every single time. What I've also realized as well as giving back has actually moved me forward. It's something that the universe seems to, I truly believe that I've been favored and put in places that I don't even have any idea why I've been there, but I know it's because because what I give gives back to me. So make it a mission to also always pull someone up, and it doesn't come from younger people either. I found myself mentoring 60, 70, 80-year-old women and men, so it comes from both sides. I mean, again, especially in technology, it's a whole new world for the mature audience as well. So be sure to pull from any and every side possible. But of course, and especially the next generation, because they are our next leaders. Thank you so much. It's good.
Real quick, Brian Marshall, and I was 16 years at Dell.
Right.
Just turned Derek Dingle. So some history here on this. So to answer kind of some of the questions here, I did a lot with I've worked in supplier diversity, worked with the global diversity team, and was part of the team that brought Black Enterprise into Austin.
All right.
So some of the questions and the history I had with this is what I saw and how do we solve. Yeah, I get more representation. One of the things I guess I want to kind of double down on is I keep hearing the blend between the two. Either we're going to talk about inclusion, being at the table internally inside the organization, and then the outside version of how do we do business, how do our tech companies do business with more minority businesses? Because that was the other hat I wore as well from the supplier diversity side. Internally, I think, Sheila, you hit it. What I saw and what helped me is, yes, mentors, but we've got to get them in. The key here is let's not get too caught up in getting them in, just be happy to be there, but they must ascend through the ranks.
That's right.
So we call it now, it used to be a bridge, building relationships in diverse group environments, which was originally the African American Employee Resource Group within Dell. Its intent was to do that and bring them up through the rank, but you got to get people up the ranks to do some of that. The key things I saw, and I'm just saying in the world that I came from, is you get some in, but target lower down, don't target higher up. My mentor was one of the first vice presidents of global diversity at Dell, Thurman Woodard. He and I argued with this point all the time, which was he was targeting the top echelons, the directors, because the assumption was they would hire down, and in many instances they did not. So target more down, to your point, get more emphasis, at least internally when we're talking about hiring people up through the ranks in the tech companies. That is a good piece, but the other piece is probably just create more Black businesses tech-wise, because Derek's got one. We got an African American that runs a $9.6 billion tech company in America, and no one knows who his name is.
Robert Smith. No? Dave Stewart. I know that name. Absolutely correct, and I think that that's phenomenal that Dell Technologies has that pathway, and I know for a fact that Dell Technologies has always been truly invested in diversity and inclusion, and I thank Dell Technologies for that. It's interesting, we were speaking about that last night at the dinner. IBM was talking about their pathways as well. It's very clear that representation is important and at every level. So IBM was even talking about how on every single level of the executive team, you'll see someone, and that one person will be an ally and a mentor in order to bring them up the chains. So absolutely, it does start from from the bottom as well, of course, and that's kind of like the bridge of making sure that you ally yourselves and make yourself a mentee.
You can hold it. Good afternoon. I'm Daryl Samuels with D. Samuels and Associates in Houston. We do construction management. And we heavily rely on tech, and what I've seen is the issues that are in the tech industry are the same issues that we see in construction. One of the things I've done is brought my youngins with me so they can get an idea of what the issues are. But mainly what I have seen with blacks in tech and as construction is two things. It's follow up and follow through. Is that we know what the issues are. It's a matter of just putting our heads down and just being competitive, compete. And that's all that is. If you compete and you compete well, you'll see the benefits. But that's all I can say about it. We see the same issues.
Yes, Mr. Samuels, you're absolutely right. I agree 1,000%. I mean, it's a given. We work 10 times harder to get where we need to be. But the reality is doing good work, doing great work, not good work, and doing it consistently will take you to the next level. Also, yes, we do have to come together as a people and make sure that we're looking out for ourselves. But there are allies that are our white counterparts, and we have to make sure, and our brown counterparts, and and so on and so forth. So we can't isolate ourselves either in these types of industries. It's very important to create friendships, bonds, and relationships with others that can take you to the next level. And many have done it for me, and I know have done it for you all as well.
Oh, okay. Hello, my name is Cornelius Toole. When I was an undergrad, 15 to 20 years ago, I remember writing like the first reports and grant proposals where we were using the terms diversity and inclusion as a positive vision for addressing the problems of underrepresentation. But now it just really irks me because, the issues we're kind of talking about, and I hate the fact that, social justice is a pejorative, but that it's, first, there are people that are, maybe they're neutral to these issues or they're indifferent. But I see diversity and inclusion as maybe it's a carrot, but I don't know if it's that tasty of a carrot for people who don't feel like they have a dog in the hunt. Are there any sticks? Are there any organizations that have turned it around and they basically represent a competitive threat to other organizations? Is there, I don't think boycotting is going to be the stick. Is there a stick? The way I see it, if a company doesn't implement diversity and inclusion, then it's not legitimate. And in a lot of ways, we talk about the, Make America Great Again and all of that. There have been bright spots and there have been dark spots. Where's the stick? Like, what's the real threat? Worst case scenario, will things just go on the way they've always gone on, or are there opportunities to, are there opportunities there, right? Are there black swans that we can try to prevent or leverage?
Yeah. Absolutely. I have a little bit more of an optimistic view on when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And although I know that it's moving very slowly, the reality is there has been initiatives towards this. The fact that we have such huge sponsors that are willing to put forth thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars towards just being in the room and hearing conversations like this, that shows that, companies are very interested. I do believe wherever there is a problem, there is true opportunity. And, again, it's all about, making the solutions simple and clear, which is what I tried to do today. They can't be wildly, just wildly, these long hypothetical ideas. They need to be very simple and things that we can do now so that we can, study that, analyze that, and move on to the next steps in those things. So I do believe that that we have made strides. There's companies now like Backstage Capital, like I mentioned, where it's a black woman who's founded and founded that technology firm, that venture capital firm, and she has made, I think, just last year, $34 million for black companies, for black founders in tech specifically. Her agenda is very clear. Her niche is very clear. There are others just the same. These large companies as well, because of the PR crises that they've been going through, are putting large dollars, regardless if they like it or not, regardless if they believe in it or not. The fact that they are losing, when not putting diversity and inclusion first, they are putting large sums of money and initiatives towards change. But along with your question, it has to come with the solution. If you know of any solutions, it's all about, putting forth the efforts and the actions towards making those possible and finding those that can actually further your agenda. I find that to be very important. There's been a lot of talk, but it's always around the problem. The question is, what are the solutions? What are the simple solutions that can be put in place now? Yeah.
How you doing? My name is Ronnie Russell.
Hi, Mr. Russell.
Retired military. I live in Killeen, live an hour away, so it was important for me to come down. I heard the brothers in the back response. It's kind of like saying, are we waiting for someone else to give us something, or are we going to create it for ourselves? And I think where it can go, we all know an organization that should be in the room. We all know someone who has the ability to create something that should have been in this room. When we create the space and put those individuals that work in that space, who are at the ground level, who has boots on the ground, like for me, myself, when I started, I own Texas Black Pages, which is a statewide black business directory. In 2016, I only had 87 businesses registered in my directory. When I retired from the Army, I went from 87 to year to date right now, over 8,000 businesses in the directory. That's
amazing.
From going to places and putting yourself in spaces to where you have to be in order for you to have that voice. So having events like this is good. It's a nicety for me. But what about the people that's really in that space that's doing it? You can create, they can create and talk about supplier and diversity, and we're waiting on sticks. I'm not waiting on a stick anymore. I'm bringing my own stick. And how many other people that should be in the room with sticks so we can build bridges so people can really cross these things and actually go to the other side and pull someone back? Sankofa is Sankofa for a reason, because the bird turned around and looked to see who it can pull forward. So we have to bring sticks and bring more sticks in the room so we can build more bridges, so we can collaborate with those who need to have that collaboration.
I agree. And with that, I find it important that, before leaving this room, find 5, 6 people, talk to them, genuinely get to know them, learn where their issues are, their challenges are, and help them. That just those quick 5-minute conversations, that is an example of mentorship. You can mentor to someone in 5-10 minutes. It doesn't have to be, this long drawn out process. But find someone and find ways to collaborate, because Mr. Russell is absolutely right. We can't wait, and we've waited long enough for others to do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves, and I truly believe in that. Truly. Mr. Williams, are you our last question?
Yeah, but unfortunately it was for her.
Okay.
But no, I just want to first and last say that wow. You've been an amazing and incredible speaker. You are about to get a new mentee in just a second, if I can be so gracious. And I'd like to invite the audience to give you the warmest round of applause possible for Ms. TerryP.Mitchell.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much.